Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kircha. Coming up in today's newscast, that's it. Nearly all the votes are counted, and the Central Elections Committee says that the latest results are final.
Israelis celebrate Purim in spite of warnings from the health ministry.
And stay tuned because we're going to break down everything you need to know about the coronavirus. With politics, with the current yet unofficial results of the election, both left and right-wing parties are claiming victory, but there are still some votes being tallied, and the Prime Minister's Likud party is holding out for a potential extra seat.
Still, the Central Elections Committee is saying that there is no chance of that happening.
Including potentially fraudulent ballots, which are being recounted, there are only just over 1,000 votes left to review. Yet the Likud and other parties on the right are upwards of 5,000 to 7,000 votes shy of another Knesset seat. So in spite of the Likud's arguing to the contrary, the Central Elections Committee says these results are just not going to change. That means that the Likud is settled with 36 seats within a bloc of 58, opposite the blue and white party's 33 seats within the center-left and Arab bloc of 59 to 62. And with this math in mind, President Rivlin is expected to give the first chance to form a coalition to blue and white chairman Benny Gantz. Again, though, this is assuming two things. One, that both Avigdor Lieberman and the Arab list will agree to form Gantz's minority government, in which the Arab parties prop up the coalition from outside. And two, that the blue and white party itself will be content with such a change in policy. And neither seem likely at this time. While Gantz has agreed to the secular and economic conditions set forth by Avigdor Lieberman, he has yet to even hear the demands of the Arab joint list. And even if Gantz is okay with their demands, whatever they are, members of his party, like sub-party chief Moshe Ya'alon and MKs Tzvi Hauser and Yoaz Hendel, reportedly refuse to rely on the majority Arab faction.
With the Elections Committee essentially confirming its numbers, we have a pretty good idea of how the Knesset is going to be divided.
What we don't know is how these parties will come up with a coalition. Well, joining us now with more via Skype is David Herman, the president of the International Center for Public Diplomacy in Israel. David, thank you so much for being with us.
Happy Purim.
Thank you so much. Happy Purim to you as well. Now, the center-left is trying to oust Speaker Edelstein, who's with the Likud, and to prevent Netanyahu from forming a government while he's under indictment. Will this effort be successful?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a prophet, but I'm sure that if they will try to do this anti-democratic move, the Likud will offer a law proposal that will suggest that a person who used to be chief of staff of the army is not qualified to be prime minister, and I wonder how the joint list members will vote.
Now, it's now expected that Rivlin will choose Gantz to form a coalition, but what will the joint Arab list likely demand in return for their support?
Well, I am not sure yet that they will recommend Mr. Gantz in front of the president, because they have preconditions that even a very flexible politician like Mr. Gantz is not for sure, will not for sure be able to compromise with, as I hope. So basically, we have 58 mandates who would like to support Netanyahu. We have 47 members of Knesset who would like to support Gantz, which means the center, the left, and Mr. Lieberman and his fraction. And we have 15 anti-Israeli members of Knesset from the joint list, which are traditionally not counted in the political game. Unfortunately, it's not obvious so far, but it's hard to believe that it will be possible to establish a coalition based on their support. So we have actually very specific options, or that we will go to fourth election. I hope that this will be the last option. The second option is that the anti-Israeli joint list will support Mr. Gantz. I don't see this happen. The third option is that we will have government led by Netanyahu, and here we have two different options for this big one option. First is that we will have a unity government, or that we will have a minority government supported from the outside by the Blue and White Party or the Labour Party. One thing
Okay, now, well, one of the questions is, whether Hendel House or anyone else from the center left is willing to defect to the right under Netanyahu if it means preventing a minority coalition with the joint list's support.
No, I don't see any coalition which will be supported by the joint list from the outside.
No, so we're saying would Hendel and Hauser, MK's Hendel and Hauser, who are already in the Blue and White Party, they're very much against getting support from the joint list. So even though they've said that they're not willing to defect, might that change?
I want to believe that we will not break the principle in Israel that no coalition will be formed by the support of these kinds of extremist parties. Imagine yourself that in Europe, anti-Semitic party would be part of the coalition. Well, it doesn't happen because it's obvious that the major parties, central left or central right, the Social Democrats or the Conservatives, they will never establish coalition based on anti-Semitic parties. I hope it will not happen also in Israel.
All right, David, thank you for joining us with this
Thank
update.
you very much. Take care.
Okay, it is officially the Jewish holiday of Purim today, and Israelis across the country are getting ready to party. The Jewish holiday is a celebration of the Jews' salvation from genocide in ancient Persia, and Israelis typically celebrate by dressing up in costumes and having a good time.
Yeah, but with the outbreak of the deadly coronavirus, lots of Purim festivities are being canceled and many more are on edge.
It's officially the Jewish holiday of Purim today, and Israelis across the country are getting ready to party. The Jewish holiday is a celebration of the Jews' salvation from genocide in ancient Persia, and Israelis celebrate by dressing up in costumes and having a good time. But with the outbreak of the deadly coronavirus, lots of Purim festivals are being canceled and many are on the edge. Parents across Israel are trying to celebrate Purim without being deterred by the panic that is ensuing amid the coronavirus outbreak. Israel has a reported 39 cases of the disease so far, and over 80,000 Israelis are being quarantined. Still, the coronavirus is making a special appearance this year, with children and adults alike dressing up with costumes related to the disease. Many are even wearing surgical masks, although it's unclear if that's out of fear of the virus or just for fun. Either way, Israeli parents are doing their best to make sure that their young ones can enjoy a normal Purim.
I don't want to spoil the holiday. So, this is like a flu, the corona, and I think that a little bit they exaggerate all this thing about it.
Well, now 14 more Israelis have just been diagnosed with the coronavirus, bringing the total amount of known cases in Israel up to 39. And 7 of the new patients returned from European countries. 6 came into contact with sick people here in Israel.
The Israeli health minister is now saying that it is likely that there will be an announcement later today that travelers from all over the world will be required to enter home quarantine.
אנחנו צופים שתהיה הגדלה. אנחנו לפני הרבה החלטות לא קלות. ואני מקווה ונראה לי שנחליט עד מחר. יש דברים שאנחנו צריכים להחליט ולשקול גם כל מיני דברים, כולל כלכלה, אבל כלכלה הוא לא המכריע בנושא הזה. אצלי משחק הנושא רק בריאות של האנשים. אני לא מסתכל על כלום, זה לא מעניין אותי כלום.
Well, Israel's transportation ministry has just announced new directives for public transport throughout the country. Passengers are now banned from standing on intercity trips and are forbidden from sitting in the front row of seats near the bus driver. Public transport will continue to operate as usual, although a manpower shortage may be an issue in the future.
Now, the head of the Hotel Association in Israel now says that the industry is facing its worst ever crisis too, as tourism is plummeting in the face of the coronavirus outbreak. Amir Hayek says that a cash injunction from the state is the only thing that can save the industry from total collapse, because if not, hotels will have to lose over half of their employees.
The expected closure of Israel's borders to tourist entries from the entire world is expected to cost $1.7 billion a year. And Israel's premier El Al airline says it expects revenue to decline by $140 to $160 million by April of 2020.
Now, Israel is reacting very strongly to slow down the spread of the coronavirus. But what about the Palestinian Authority that's just a few miles away? ILTV's Nittany Manson has the story.
Well, as of now, at least 19 people in the West Bank have tested positive for the virus. Several thousand more are in home isolation, and the Palestinian Authority is declaring a 30-day state of emergency. So it turns out that the Palestinian officials are just as vigorous as Israel with their quarantine directives. On Sunday, all mosques in the Bethlehem area were ordered closed indefinitely, and the city itself has been on lockdown since last week. Also, the IDF and Palestinian authorities coordinated the exit of dozens of tourists from the West Bank via Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. Not all international travelers have been so lucky, however. Dozens of internationals are now trapped in isolation in the West Bank, including at least a dozen Americans who are in quarantine in a hotel in Beit Jala. And the group of Americans are now awaiting test results with hopes to return home soon.
We know there's just way too much information out there about the coronavirus to keep up. So we're going to answer all of your questions about the novel disease in Israel as of this very moment.
How many people in Israel have coronavirus?
As of now, there are 39 known cases of coronavirus in Israel.
But what are the symptoms?
The health ministry says you should take note if you have a fever of at least 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, if you're coughing, have difficulty breathing, or any other respiratory symptoms. And these symptoms are more worrying if you've recently returned to Israel from abroad or have been within 6 feet of someone with the coronavirus for at least 15 minutes a time.
I think I have coronavirus. What should I do?
Do not go to the emergency room or a local health clinic. The Israeli Health Ministry is urging those who think they might have the coronavirus to call 101. That's the Magen David Adom emergency service. Now, medics will come to your house to administer lab tests, and that way, in case you are sick, you won't spread the infectious disease any further.
How do I protect myself on public transportation?
Israel's Transportation Ministry has just announced new directives for public transport throughout the country. Passengers are now banned from standing on intercity trips and are forbidden from sitting in the front row of seats near the bus driver. Buses also have to keep the windows open, and there's no requirement to wear face masks, but public transport will continue to operate as usual, although a manpower shortage may be an issue in the future.
I just hung out with a friend who was in contact with somebody who has the coronavirus. Do I need to be quarantined?
No.
Should I wear a face mask?
This is a confusing one. You don't need to wear a face mask unless you're carrying the virus. The health ministry says a face mask is limited in protecting you from the coronavirus. It can wear out and it can get too moist if it's used for too long. So, unless a healthcare professional recommends you wear a face mask, it isn't necessary. And those who are showing symptoms of the coronavirus or actually have it should wear a face mask to avoid spreading the disease. And if you're in contact with someone with the coronavirus, you should also wear a face mask.
I've been ordered to go into home quarantine, but is it an actual requirement? What will happen if I break it?
It is legally binding if the health ministry orders you to go into self-quarantine. If you violate instructions, you could face jail time or fines. Plus, Israel has just created a police unit that's dedicated to tracking down quarantine breakers. So don't be one of them.
Who should I call if I have questions about the coronavirus in Israel?
You can call the health ministry's coronavirus hotline at star 5400, or you can call your health insurance provider or personal physician.
What countries do I have to have been to go into quarantine?
You're required to go into 14 days of self-quarantine from the day you've landed if you've returned to Israel from Egypt, Spain, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Andorra, San Marino, Italy, Macau, Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, Japan, or mainland China. And this order only applies to those who have entered the countries but doesn't extend to connecting flights.
But I came to Israel on a connecting flight through one of these flagged countries. I didn't leave the airport, so do I have to enter home quarantine?
Not necessarily. As of now, travelers who have taken connecting flights through mainland China, South Korea, and Italy are the only ones who have to enter home quarantine for 14 days, even if they never left the airport.
I was recently at an international conference, but I wasn't in a flagged country that was listed by the health ministry. Do I have to go to self-quarantine?
If you returned after March 4th from an international conference anywhere in the world, you are required to go into home quarantine in Israel for 2 weeks.
I'm not in home quarantine, but I just got back to Israel from abroad. Can I attend parties and events?
If you've traveled abroad anywhere recently, the health ministry says you're forbidden from attending events with 100 people or more.
I'm in home quarantine, but my family isn't. What are the restrictions on how I move around my house?
The health ministry says that if you're confined to your home, you should stay in a separate, well-ventilated room from your family. It's also ideal to use a separate bathroom that isn't being used by anybody else, if possible. And if you have to leave the room, do so for very short periods of time and cover your mouth and nose with a face mask. Also, wash your hands incessantly. A quarantined person's laundry should be stored and washed separately. Discarded tissue should be placed in a tightly sealed bag before being thrown in the trash. And contact with bodily fluids of the quarantined person should be avoided entirely.
I need to help out a quarantined family member or friend in my house. What precautions do I have to take? Can I enter their room?
The health ministry says there should only be one person that's entering and exiting the room of an isolated individual, and that person should be healthy without any other diseases. Now, if you have to help a quarantined person, make sure to wear a face mask and gloves and wash your hands afterwards. The ministry also recommends disinfecting bedside tables and other surfaces in the quarantined room every day.
Are you still paid when you're in quarantine?
Yes, but it comes out of your sick days. Israelis have around 12 sick days a year, but they roll over to the next year if you haven't taken them. So if you have at least 14 sick days left, you will be paid while you're in quarantine. If you're in a job where you aren't contracted, talk to your boss to find out.
How do I get paid? Do I need to give a doctor's note to my boss in order to be compensated for the time I wasn't working while I was in quarantine?
No, the health ministry has published a general form for those who have been placed in quarantine, which you can access on their website.
If I order something in the mail from China or another infected country, can I get coronavirus?
There is currently no reason to believe the virus could be transmitted through the mail. That's what the health ministry says.
Can my pets get the coronavirus?
It is highly unlikely that an infected person could transmit the coronavirus to a pet, but it's still recommended that you keep a safe distance from your furry friends if you have the disease or even symptoms. So if you're in home quarantine, you should probably stay separated from your pets.
Is the coronavirus related to Corona beer?
No, but we still recommend switching over to an ice cold Israeli brew immediately, for your health.
So we adults are now more informed and less panicky about the coronavirus. Great, but how do you go about explaining this to your kids?
Well, here to help is Israeli psychologist Dr. Camila Folkosh-Lavan. Thanks for coming in. All right, so tell us a little bit about how you should go about explaining the coronavirus to your kids. What is the best way to do that?
I think similar to any kind of stressful situation potentially, and why is it stressful? Because it's everywhere on TV, of course. It's best to first start by asking questions. See what the child already knows, what are the fears, what maybe they discussed already with their peers. So it's very, very important to know first where they stand.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's always the first step.
Okay.
So, but beyond that, I mean, do you leave out some of the doom and gloom? Are you totally candid and honest, or do you maybe sugar it up a little bit?
I think that in this case with coronavirus, we're on a good side because if you do look at the statistics are actually not so dramatic as it might seem. So for example, up until 50 years and over, it only rises up on top over the 1%. Everything else is under 1% of mortality rate. Children from 9 years and down, there's no mortality rate, right? So it's very important to understand that there are many illnesses that we already are tackling, like for example, cardiovascular and strokes, yes, that don't even stand close to the mortality rate of coronavirus, yet no one's in panic running to the gym and trying to eat healthy, yes? So it's very important to get educated, look at the statistics, go to the World Health Association, there are many others, go see the actual research, not just the drama around it, but you go see be informed first, so that you are calm, so that you understand that this is not something to be that panicked about. And of course, one person, no one wants to be that 1% even or 0.00011 human to be dying, but you need to understand that the situation isn't so dire. And your calmness will also, of course, in turn go towards your children.
But again, I mean, we are seeing these extreme quarantine measures taking place in Israel. The health ministry seems to be panicked itself in terms of sending almost everybody. I mean, they're talking today about bringing people who come in from all over the world. Any person who enters Israel from abroad now going into self-quarantine. So it makes you think that perhaps this is bigger than we actually think it is, right?
It's a very good point, right? So even one person is too many. No one wants to be that one person. Yes, I think it's very smart and very responsible of them to make sure that the infection rate is kept down because it is infectious, yes? So you want to keep it down because you don't know, no one wants to be, again, that family member that passed away. Okay,
Right.
no one wants. So it's very, very smart of them and very responsible. Like just right now we saw the interview that they do not look at everything all around it and making sure that no person is affected if you can prevent it. Yes, but at the same time, on the other side, balance it out. See that the statistics aren't so dire. This is not such a horrible situation. So also for the quarantine, if it would be like the Black Plague or I don't know, really something horrible, no one would be allowed to go home to do the
work.
quarantine.
Sure.
Like no one would be allowed, because what happens at home? There are other family members. There are delivery people bringing you food. By the time there are people. I know also clients and also in personal life, there are people that were already amongst us, and then all of a sudden they got a call, okay, go to quarantine. So it wasn't something. It's not that serious. It's serious to where you shouldn't spread it, but it's not that serious to where it warrants a panic.
All right, so my next question, anyways. We've talked a lot about people going into quarantine right now. There are upwards of 100,000 Israelis in quarantine. What do you do to stay sane, to stay calm, especially if you have kids that you then have to explain to them, you can't go out for the next 2 weeks?
Right. I think it's a very good question. Books are your friends. I think books are your friends in general in life, right?
Right.
But aside from that, we have videos, we have television, we have draw, talk to people. This is an opportunity to rest, sleep in, do your thing, have fun, like literally have fun. Talk to your friends on Skype if you need to talk to them, reach out. I have clients, we're having Skype sessions. It's not the end of the world. People do deliveries.
2 weeks stuck inside a room in your house, I mean...
I'd be very happy to be stuck right now inside
I mean, a
room
lot of
and
people are
sleep.
saying that, but then I think about
And then
the reality of what that's actually
I think
like.
you say
and-
that until you're in isolation.
Right.
But it's not still, even though, let's say, you're stuck in the room for those 2 weeks, or what if you're on bed rest as a pregnant woman because you can't get out, or maybe, after an operation and you're stuck in a hospital. There are sometimes things that maybe aren't the most optimal, but see a way that this is not the end of the world. You're still going to be hopefully okay, everything's going to be fine because the percentages are, again, of mortality are very low. The recovery rate is 94%. This is important to remember, okay? 94, that's a lot. And this is only from the people that got infected, which aren't that many. So okay, it's not convenient, but look for the positives. And I think it's also maybe an opportunity from a psychological perspective. I am a psychologist. From a psychological perspective, maybe this is an opportunity to grow, to expand your horizons.
Start
maybe
looking at the positive
exactly.
things
See
Start
what you can
looking
do
for
for
a new
yourself.
job.
Change the angle
All
that
right.
you look at things. That's good.
All right, Camila, thank you for
so
joining
much.
us.
Thank you.
All right. Health experts continue to tell us that hand washing is the best protection against the coronavirus. But let's face it, regular soap and water just can't remove every single microbe.
That's right. Here's the good note. The good news, though, I can't speak anymore. 2 Israeli companies say they have a solution to make your hand washing 100% effective at killing viruses without using harmful substances.
It all begins with Israeli Soapy Hygiene Microstation. Soapy is used in several different countries, and it uses an optimal amount of water that's taken from the atmosphere and soap for a 20-second hand washing. A computer vision interface then verifies if you properly washed your hands.
Now, the Soapy stations will include a plant-derived substance in the soap that is proven to kill virus, a virus that's even more resistant than the coronavirus. So, how did Soapy come up with this idea?
Well, they're collaborating with an Israeli company that produces a biodegradable product used for soil disinfection. And in December, before coronavirus even hit China, Soapy tested it to see if it could kill virus on hands.
Well, not only does it work, it can also destroy a range of human viruses, including the coronavirus. And recently released results show the combination of the Soapy machine and the special substance to be 100% effective in 72 samples.
Now, if you're wondering how you can literally get your hands on this new tech, you can order the machine and soap from the Soapy website with a special coronavirus discount. It ships worldwide.
All right, on that note, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight will be clear and warm with lows around 55 Fahrenheit or 13 degrees Celsius. And then tomorrow should be partly cloudy and with a slight drop in temperatures to an average high of about 71 or 21 degrees Celsius. And now before we go, let's take a look at what is going viral in Israel.
humpy cat on a Roomba. That is awesome.
I would have never known that unless you said that, but that is a creepy looking cat to me.
Super
if I
creepy.
do say so
But
myself.
what a great Purim costume.
It is a good
That's
Purim
amazing.
costume. It kind of looks like he's on a magic carpet. I'm into it.
If only. All right,
All
but
right.
that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.5 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchak. Thanks so much for watching.